I'm excited to moderate our first panel, where we'll dive into opportunities for young men and boys to know themselves as fully multidimensional human beings and to be understood by the world around them. We will be joined by, please come up as I say your name, we'll be joined by Manny Almonte, a nationally recognized advocate for men's mental health and outdoor equity and youth leadership. He's the founder and CEO of Camping to Connect, a nonprofit that mentors young men of color through nature-based experiences. And his award-winning work has been featured on NBC Nightly News, The Today Show, and Men's Health. We have Johnny Cole, the creator and mentor of Hey Brother Co., cultural change maker, a survivor of domestic violence, and has led high school mentorship programs, worked in domestic violence prevention, and facilitated sexual violence prevention education in colleges. Today, he builds spaces that expand masculinity and equip men and boys with emotional skills, accountability, and care. Lastly, we have Peter Shankman. Peter is a 6-time best-selling author and entrepreneur who founded Haro and Source of Sources. He co-founded He co-founded Mental Capital Consulting and hosts the ADHD podcast, Faster Than Normal. He's also a global keynote speaker on customer experience and neurodiversity, as well as an Ironman, skydiver, and single dad based in New York City. Reminder to everyone to...
And thank you to you, Janna.
Yeah, really.
Is your mic on? Let's do a test. Manny.
Testing.
Testing.
I'm not hot. Testing. Okay, we're good.
I am hot.
Speak for yourself.
Wonderful.
We got to print. Oh, wait, hold on. We have some technical difficulties here. We got a printer thing happening on Johnny's computer.
If you hold
You're going to upgrade Windows with something.
we're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
Upgrade. Just press cancel. There we go.
Womp womp.
Maybe just press cancel down the bottom.
Escape. F8. Oh.
We're all like, we can see it happening. We can see it happening. Okay, let's talk.
Yeah,
They'll
let's
figure
do it.
this out.
All
I
right.
thought it goes right over you and me.
They'll figure it out. Okay. So it's my great honor to be with all of you and to kick off this conversation. We cannot help connect young men to the world and connect with them if they're not already connected to themselves. And so that's what this panel is about. Each of you, in your own way, are flipping the script in your work, in your content, and your leadership. Johnny for bro culture and the manosphere, Peter for neurodiversity, Manny for men and nature. Please briefly introduce yourselves, and then beyond the tools, we want to know, how did you identify the script that needed to be flipped in your specific domain? And what was the moment of realization or the personal impetus that drove you to challenge the status quo? So let's start with Johnny.
Thank you so much. My name is Johnny Cole, and I'm the founder of a men's work organization called Hey Brother Co. I'm also a mentor and founder of the program, the Oberlin High School Men's Work Project, which is the high school that I graduated from almost 10 years ago for 30 high school boys in my I started doing men's work because I have an origin story in domestic violence. I was raised by the most patriarchal man that I have ever met in my life to this day, which is saying something given the state of the manosphere. And I grew up a lost, disconnected boy that was asking this question, what's wrong with me, far too often than is healthy. And before having the language and tools to understand the system of patriarchy and what was going on beyond my own household, I really did think that there was something wrong with me, and I was somehow fundamentally different from men and boys around the world. I know now that that's not true, But the specific impetus for me to start doing men's work is a desire for support and connection with men, and a desire to find solidarity, a desire to change the culture that produced my father's abuse and has produced so many experiences for everyone in this room of victimization, of alienation, othering. And so that's why I do what I do, to model for the world and for men and boys. It's important to be expressive and kind and emotionally aware. It's important to be compassionate. It's important to have strong family relationships. It's important to advocate for women and girls. And yeah, that's kind of my summary, I suppose. Thank you. Thanks. I'm gonna silence this.
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
Yeah, so my name is Manny Almonte. I am the founder of Camping to Connect and Mastermind Connect Men's Collective. So 2 organizations that focus on men, one for young men, one for adult men. And I live at the intersection of men, nature, and community, right? So bringing people together to connect authentically. The script got flipped when I invited a bunch of black men to go camping upstate New York, and they gave me a resonating hell no. Come on, man, we don't do that. And at the time, I convinced about 14 of these men to go, and it was a life-changing experience for them and for me, being able to see, men shed their armor, becoming, vulnerable around the campfire, like nature, like the great philosopher Carlos Davila said once, is a great equalizer, and we were able to connect in a way that we had not done it through working out together, having a cigar night and great conversations, but you show up differently in nature. There's no technology, there's no disruption, silence, is there. You don't have the chaos of the city, the noise, and you're able to focus on how you're feeling in the moment, and then you can share. That led to this realization as we were working through finding ourselves as a men's collective. We wanted to give back, and give back meant working with youth, the younger versions of ourselves. And we deducted that because there were so many things that we were learning, relearning, unlearning every time that we came together, that we wanted to focus on the younger versions of ourselves. And we found that being able to culturally relate was important. We didn't have to explain things. We didn't have to code switch. We didn't have to translate, what getting hit with the chancla was, right? Like, as I'm Afro-Latinos, but across the board, everybody understood, and we don't have to speak about the reasons why, my mom would hit me with the chancla, or say like, oh, that's violent, or like, you're not supposed to do that. It's like, yeah, that was in the 70s, for God's sakes, and, they had their own journey. But that led to this work with the youth and taking them out to nature, right? So Andy Isaacson right here, co-founder of Camping to Connect, actually saw that we were going camping out there, the men were connecting, and that we were working with young men. He himself had gone through an experience, sort of a retreat that showed him the value of men connecting in nature, and we were able to do that, right? To bring these young men together with men a year or two prior to gone camping or hiking before, and to show up with them in front of them and saying like, why you feel that this is foreign to you. I was you the other day, but man, let me tell you, this is powerful, and you'll see why. And then the kids can see themselves in this man, and the kids can see not only themselves in this man but culturally, but the fact that these men themselves are learning their way around nature, and then we do it together, right? So I think that's very powerful.
It's leadership and action and role modeling in community.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Peter Shankman. I have
worn several hats and still wear several hats. I'm a corporate keynote speaker. I started and sold a company called Help a Reporter Out, or Harrow, which you might know, and recently restarted a different version of it called Source of Sources, which is currently growing to this day. But for purposes of today, I'm also the co-founder of a company called Mental Capital Consulting. And Mental Capital helps companies attract, hire, and retain neurodiverse employees while helping companies become more neuro-inclusive. Because it's not just about the neurodiverse people, it's not just about the neurotypical people, it's about everyone as a whole. And funnily enough, yesterday in 1983, when I was 11, or as my daughter puts it, in the 1900s. Yeah, that hit really well when she said that to me. Did she, oh, in the 1900s? I'm like, get out. So, yeah, she didn't get breakfast for a week. But yesterday in 1983, a movie came out that was the first movie, TV show, commercial, anything I'd ever seen in my life that made me realize that there might be someone else out there like me. And the movie was called War Games. And it starred Matthew Broderick, who was a geek, who was not popular in school, who had very few friends, who kept getting beaten up, but he had one really good talent. He knew how to use computers. For those who are under 35, computers used to be very big. You didn't carry them with you. And they plugged into things like phones, which plugged into walls. And for the first time in my life, at 11 years old, I saw a role model. I saw someone who was similar to me, who understood the power that was somehow lurking within them, but didn't know how to bring it out. And fast forward 25 years later, as a full-on adult, I think in my late 30s, I finally got diagnosed as autistic ADHD. And everything started to make sense, right? I could start and sell million-dollar companies, but couldn't hold a relationship, couldn't take out the trash, couldn't, had the social acuity of a turnip, would book dinners in, or would book a flight to Singapore, or book a flight to Shanghai when my keynote was in Singapore. And so I realized that there were certain things that I was not good at, but on the flip side, no one ever told me that I came with a lot of things that I was very, very good at. And my goal in both starting Mental Capital as well as my book and podcast called Faster Than Normal, if I can take one 5-year-old boy or girl who feels that they're broken and teach them that they're actually gifted, I will save them 20 years worth of therapy to reverse the belief that they are broken. And I hope that is our future, because we have way too many boys and girls, but for the purpose of today, way too many boys who are listening to very bad role models, who are told that go to the gym, be like everyone else, and you'll get all the women, and you'll do everything you need, and that'll give you everything, and not being told it's really cool. Growing up in New York City as a public school kid, ADHD and neurodiversity didn't exist in the 70s and 80s. What did was sit down, you're disrupting the class. And to this day, I'm still in therapy getting over that. So being able to teach the next generations that a different brain does not mean you're broken, and it does not mean you'll be alone, and there's no one to blame because there's nothing actually wrong with you, is my goal. So thank you for having me.
I've yet to meet someone who identifies as neurotypical. Has anyone here met anyone who identifies? I don't know what a normal brain is, right? I mean, I just had to say that part out loud too, because I think that we all need to feel normalized, validated, and worthy of absorbing education and the world around us in the ways that are best for us. Manny, I want to dive a little deeper into what your trips with young men entail. Like, for those that are like, oh, I'm going to take my son camping this weekend. What a great idea. Like, what are just like some of the actual tactical things that it entails, and a few things that you've learned? Like, oh, we used to do this and we realized that, just share with us a couple of, for people that are looking for inspiration.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting because when you think of Camping to Connect, the first thing that comes to mind is the camping, because that's the first word, and it's attractive, but the goal of the program is actually the connection. We're not called Connect to Camp, it's Camping to Connect, right? So the idea here that what people envision is, a kid pitching a tent, starting a campfire, what do you call it, s'mores, and that sort of thing. And yes, we do that, right? We do teach the kids how to pitch a tent, how to start a campfire safely, how to put it out safely. The kids get to cook together. The kids get to experience, watching the stars, or like wearing a headlamp for the first time, or hiking at night and, turning off that headlamp at some point and sit in silence in the dark at the top of a mountain, right, at a ridge line. And so the vehicle, right, is nature and these activities. Like, we're not an outdoor education program. We're not an outdoor recreation program either, although we do both, right? We recreate, we educate. But the goal is the connection. So the things that we have learned over the years and that we have refined and improved on is, how do we teach these kids how to share, how to speak, use words for how they're feeling, right? So it's not just creating the space for them to express themselves, but it's taking our time and having very, early morning rituals, like doing yoga and breath works and even journaling, right? So teaching them how to do that, teaching them, having a guided conversation where they can learn how to respond instead of react, for example, to things. So all these nuggets that come into play here is what lead to, by the time that we hit the second night around the campfire, they're expressing themselves in ways that they would have never done it before. They share things with us that they don't share at home, at school. Like, we have kids just say things to us that they said, like, I never said this to anybody, and to do it with other, like, young men there, that teenagers, right, that what they know how to do, what they have, the behavior that they have picked up to do is to, like, mock somebody for expressing themselves that way, to have a little, side conversation about it. We went from about 35 young men the first time that we went camping, and that was at Governor's Island, thanks to connections that we were able to make. First time they allowed people to camp there. By the next year, they were glamping, but we went camping. To groups of 10, 12 boys at a time now. Now, what that means is, instead of doing one big trip, or, 2018 we did, I think, 4, then we did 8. The idea was that we weren't up in the amount of activations that we did, but down on the amount of kids, where we now have 10 to 12, because we want to be so intentional about it that we're not focusing on, like, risk management the way you would do with 30-some kids. Now we're focusing on each connection, between us, between them, between the facilitators, because we model. They're watching us. I to close with this, it's like, at this age, I offer people respect immediately. You are up here. It's on you to lose that, right? How I see you like a rock star. How you show up, I start taking down pegs if necessary, but you up there. For teenagers, it's the very opposite. You think you deserve respect. You think you deserve anything that you think you deserve. No, that's not how they see you. You have to earn it with them, one step at a time, one conversation at a time, one shared experience at a time. So how we show up is so important, and we have to be super mindful of it. Like, it's the brotherly love, the connection that exists, the respect in the way that we talking to each other and about each other. And then they start modeling that and respecting you without you demanding it or even saying a word. They just see how you're showing up, and they start modeling that too. So that's what the program is.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, so much of what we're talking about, especially this morning, is that we can't, like, talk at young boys and young men and boys. We need to be with them and understand, and we as grown-ups need to have an empathic connection to young men if we want to connect with them, period. Peter, you champion neurodiversity as a superpower. You've given a Honda and Lamborghini example that I like, that maybe you can share with everyone here. And I also really want to hear an example, either from your own life or someone you've mentored or in your masterminds, where understanding and activating a neurodivergent trait really transformed a perceived weakness into an undeniable strength in a professional or relational context.
So those are all great questions. I mean, the best example I can give you is I made the mistake a few years ago of mentioning to my daughter's principal at her school that I work for myself, and as such, there will be days when I have free time. And now I'm on 7 committees. And that means I'm in the school a lot. And I see, she's 12 now, she's in 7th grade, and I see kids, and how these are the same kids I've been watching since they were in kindergarten. And I see how they're changing and how they're growing. And they all went from being very meek and being very quiet and being very sort of, I don't know what's going on, I'll just sit here, to positive leaders, negative leaders, positive watchers, negative watchers, all of whom have their own play on things. And if you know what you're looking for, it's pretty easy to note by now at age 12 which kids are or going to be neurodivergent. Not that in any way, and I say that in no bad way whatsoever. My daughter has known me as, I have a shirt that says ADHD is my superpower. I have actually 4 of those. And she knows from the moment she was old enough to understand what that is, she knows that's what Daddy does really well. And that's why Daddy is up at 4 a.m. every day to get on his Peloton, because he's happier, if he bikes first and gets that dopamine before she wakes up. The concept of what we're teaching kids today is the equivalent, the Lamborghini Honda situation is that most of us are born with, we're given a Honda when we're born. And a Honda is a very nice car. It will take you from point A to point B. It'll get you where you need to go. It's very safe. You might have to push down on the accelerator a lot more when you get to the highway if you want to get up to highway speed. A few of us, now about 29% of us in the United States alone, are given a Lamborghini. Problem is we're still trained to drive like it's a Honda. So we're told you're going to have to push down really hard on the accelerator when you get on the highway. And so we do. But those of us in a Lamborghini now find ourselves going 280 miles an hour with no ability to stop. And that's really the difference between a neurodiverse brain and a non-neurodiverse brain. The Honda is what we're taught and what everyone is taught. And the Lamborghini often feels left out, even though we are technically a faster and better car if we understand how to use it. And so the goal of what I've been doing and what I'm trying to teach schools and education systems and companies, including Morgan Stanley and Adobe and Google, some of our clients, is that having a neurodiverse brain is not considered a deficiency. It is actually a benefit. But to bring that back to marketing to men, kids aren't told that. Kids are told where if you're different, that's wrong, right? And they don't understand why some of them sit. I'd come home every afternoon and with a note for the teacher from like 5th grade through high school, and couldn't understand why. I'm going to go in tomorrow and I'm not going to make a joke. I'm going to sit in class. I'm not going to make a joke at the teacher's expense. And what I've learned ever since is that what I was doing was hunting for dopamine. It's no different than the person who says, I'm not going to do cocaine today, and they're sitting next to a bag of cocaine. They're going to do cocaine today. Okay? If it's in front of them and they need something, for me, that dopamine that I needed, I didn't know I needed. But I knew that if I made a joke at the teacher's expense, the other kids would laugh. And that, I didn't know that laugh was giving me the dopamine I needed. But that's what it was. And, I never ran or did any exercise as a kid. I was a performer. I went to high school of performing arts. I was a singer. We didn't exercise. And when I got older, I had an employee who was working for me in my first agency, and she was a runner. And she said, come run with me one day. I'm like, I don't do that. She said, come on, it'll be fun. I ran like a half a mile, nearly died, and signed up for a 5K. That afternoon. Most people would sign up for a 5K, and they'd do it, and they'd be very happy with themselves. I'm a double Ironman, okay? Because when you're neurodiverse, especially when you're a young man and you're neurodiverse, you aren't taught this, but you only have 2 speeds. Namaste, and I'll cut a bitch. There is absolutely no middle ground. So we need to teach and work with children and let them understand that having a super, super fast brain has tremendous benefits as long as they understand how to use it properly. And that is really the key for businesses and for what we're building.
And
That's
when
why I
we
love what you do, actually. That's why, because you put a kid in front of, you teach them how to make a fire, and they're going to hyper-focus on that. And that's when they learn that their brain works.
And, you know, we didn't call this morning marketing to young men or marketing to boys, right? We called this morning connecting with young men, because ultimately the onus is on all of us as teachers. Think about like the teachers who are in these classrooms, they grew up in different times, right? And that's where, you know, as a boy mom, I've heard my son come home and say, oh, like the school is sexist against boys. And I have to put that into I have to both validate and affirm that that's his experience, but then also put it into context. And so much of what we're going to talk about today is nuance and balance in all of these places. Johnny, your growing social media presence connects with a very vast audience, particularly young men who are drawn to bro culture. Given the call in versus call out ethos of this summit and this moment, how do you navigate this fine line between engaging with current male cultural conversations and also subtly and effectively redirecting them? And I'm hoping you can share a couple of your pieces of content that have really resonated in this way with the audience.
Absolutely. I think as Manny put really, really well, you have to be willing to model for young men what it is that you want to see from them. I think we've got a lot of cultural discourse right now that asks of men and boys to be more sensitive, to be more empathetic, to express themselves, but we have a culture of adult men who are not doing that and have not been to therapy and are still making homophobic remarks behind closed doors or in front of their friends, or are just complicit and silent. But what we're not doing is crying openly and going to therapy and talking about it and forming close relationships that we maintain ourselves instead of relying on our partners to do this for us, right? Man keeping and kin keeping. We don't show very visibly the affection and like physical touch and stuff that is so necessary to being a human. So that is what I try to visibly show to the world through my online presence, is modeling vulnerability that we all need. Now, some of the content that I make is literally just visual depictions of some of my best friends and I hugging or, you know, spending good quality time together, doing activities that are non-conventional in the context of our current conversations on masculinity and how men spend time together, right? Always, you know, watching a game where there's alcohol involved, only socializing and using alcohol as the lubricant, the main vehicle with which we relate to one another. Not asking follow-up questions, right? I think there's a common trope on social media where two men will get together and the one man will return and go back to his partner who's a woman and say, yeah, well, Rob's getting a divorce. And then he wants to continue on with his day. And she's like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, why? Why is Rob getting a divorce? What's going to happen with the kids? Why is it? Is it because of infidelity? Like, what's the reason? And he's like, I don't know. I didn't ask. And I think, I mean, the laughter in this room is indicative that this is a very relatable phenomena, but it's also indicative of a broader cultural problem we have where men are not accustomed to deepening our relationships in a way that creates intimacy and trust that keeps us alive during this era where we are so lonely. Literally keeps us alive. And so I try to model that as much as possible on social media and invite men to reflect on what it is that they were taught about manhood growing up. Why do they have certain dynamics with their friend? And I'll do this in a very relatable way. Like, why would it make you feel uncomfortable to just walk up to your friend and say, you look really handsome today? Or, you know, yeah, Manny, both of you guys are looking handsome, stylish. I mean, we have a room full of beautiful people. It's New York City. Everyone's got a great looks. Like, what is it about that brings up physical discomfort? And for the adult men in the room particularly, even though you know that's okay, even though you know it's okay to cry, it's okay to compliment one another, it's okay to be affectionate, why don't you do it as much? And it's because we still have these reserves of discomfort, patriarchy, and homophobia that prevent us and inhibit us from having these close relationships. So in the high school program that I started and in also the online presence that I cultivate, I try to be the type of manhood that I want to see more of in this world, because I know as a struggling teen who was struggling with my mental health, who was experiencing abuse at home, who was being bullied and belittled by an adult man, and then that was echoed for me in my high school as well, while trying to do all the inputs of playing sports and getting big and strong and doing everything I thought would give me the validation and acceptance from a patriarchal culture, and it still didn't work. I still felt very disconnected. And I was very tired of hearing from men like the sit and get culture, right? Like, here's what you need to understand. From all adult men always trying to tell me the rules and their wise lessons, which I know is kind of what we're doing to you, but at the same time, it's important to invite and ask teenage boys, like, what's going on in your world? Because that is the only way that we will ameliorate the current condition, which is that 2/3 of college-age young men, 18 to 24, feel that nobody really knows them well. And that's from the 2023 State of American Men report by the nonprofit Equimundo. So that is a shocking statistic I'd like us all to sit with, that 2/3 of the young men that you see walking around, 18 to 24, feel that no one knows them well in their life. And that's not the same as saying they don't have friends, they don't have family, they don't speak to people regularly. It's that the quality of their relationships do not create a level of intimacy, vulnerability, and connection that allows them to feel known and seen. And to be known is to be loved. So a lot of men are walking around feeling, and boys are feeling unloved right now, and we need to love them.
All right. In the interest of time, we're going to have to move on. The bottom line is that we need to create language, opportunities, and support for boys and young men to be their authentic selves. And you've heard from some of our leaders today. We're going to have a little quick breakout for the next 10 minutes before our next panel. I want you to turn your chairs around, find 2 to 3 people who you haven't talked to yet, introduce yourself, and share reflections on what we all just talked about. And we'll see you back here at 10 o'clock.